plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
So we've already covered the unit circle in class, but I just wanted to point out for people that might have missed a couple days that this is the unit circle. The unit circle, the reason it's called the unit circle is because the distance from the center to the outside is a distance of 1 unit. So that's why this is 0.10, this is 0.01, -1, 0, and 0, -1. If you use the Pythagorean theorem on this, you would also find that this is, if you use the Pythagorean theorem on x squared plus y squared, the distance is going to be 1. A couple other interesting things about the unit circle is that this point is at 30 degrees, pi over 6, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. There's a family of values that have pi over 6 in them. So this is pi over 6, but also this is 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6. And they all have some things in common. The thing they have in common is these points are the same. Square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Over here, this is negative square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. So same value, it's just the x value is negative. And down here, it's negative square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And over here, it's square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. So that's an easy way to remember that. The pi over 6 family. If you're looking at families of values, we also have another family of values, the pi over 3 family. So we have pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. And you'll notice that they have the same values as the pi over 6 family. Now instead of having square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, they switch the order. It's 1/2 and then square root of 3 over 2. And all the pi over 3 families have the same values, except for the signs are different depending on what quadrant they're in. So this is 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. This is negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. And this one is negative 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. This is 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. And since we have all those family of values, we have another family of values, and that is the pi over 4 family. The pi over 4 family have all the same values. This is square root of 2 over 2, and this is square root of 2 over 2. They're the same. That's at the 45-degree angle. And so, if you look at the pi over 4 family, there's 3 pi over 4, and they have the same values, except the first one is negative. And then at the 5 pi over 4, they're both negative. And then at 7 pi over 4, the first one is positive, second one is negative. And it is to your advantage to memorize the unit circle. It's not necessary. I would recommend memorizing the first quadrant. And if you memorize the first quadrant, you can use the idea of the families of pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3 to fill out the rest of the unit circle. So we're going to use the unit circle in just a minute.